What happened to Adolf Hitler and his men after World War II? Why was Hitler so obsessed with the mystical? And did Hitler really manage to fake his death and secretly escape far from his homeland, somewhere in the ice of Antarctica, where the Nazis have been speculated to have military bases? We'll find out in the new episode of Secret Origins. Welcome. Officially, Hitler is said to have died by suicide in his bunker. But did he really? There is an alternative narrative that proposes a different ending. A daring escape to a secret Nazi military base in Antarctica. In the fourth year of his reign as Führer, Adolf Hitler began to establish his absolute personal authority, asserting direct control over the German military. However, on the verge of World War II, Hitler was also engaging in clandestine activities hidden from the public. He channeled extensive resources into the pursuit of ancient artifacts, believed by him to hold immense power. On December the 17th, the German ship MS Schwabenland set sail on one of these covert missions. Its 33-member crew is said to have included scientists, military specialists, construction workers, and crucial members of the Thule Society, an elite group linked to the Nazis specializing in mysticism and the occult. After 32 days, they arrived at their destination, Antarctica. The Nazis held a deep fascination for ancient civilizations and myths of extinct superior races. They sought the last Arctic homeland, theorized as the origin of the Aryan race. From 1937 to 1939, the Nazis conducted extensive studies of mines and caves across Europe and executed thorough explorations of Antarctica in search of an elusive gateway around the South Pole, rumored to be a portal to the underworld.
So the area of Antarctica they went to was New Schwabenland.
Allegedly, it was here that the Nazis were able to connect with the superhumans residing in the mythical Rainbow City beneath the ice of Antarctica. There they established a military outpost named New Swabia, intended to shelter secret Vril technologies and facilitate their further development. It is speculated that a submarine base was constructed on site, and an extensive underground facility was developed within Mügli-Hoffmann Mountain around 1942 to 1943. This project was named Base 211. The area surrounding Base 211 abounded with warm mineral springs and rich iron ore deposits, and access to the facility was through an underground passage, linking the entrance to the base with the submarines. Throughout World War II, and particularly in its latter half, German submarines regularly navigated routes to the South Atlantic, Antarctica, and South America, following predetermined trajectories to evade potential obstacles. This might explain why the Allied command didn't pay attention to them. The Germans also operated weather stations on desolate islands between South America's tip and the polar continent, as well as weather buoys in Antarctic waters. In 1942, another project was initiated, the permanent colonization of a military settlement in the region surrounding Base 211. Over 10,000 Aryan women and roughly 3,000 soldiers aged 17 to 24 were chosen for this purpose. The theory suggests that in March 1945, near the end of the war, the final shipments of Vril technology were discreetly relocated there, under the supervision of SS General Hans Kammler, who also oversaw the programs that were developing the Reich's classified weapons. We know that the Nazis searched for ancient artifacts globally, including Antarctica. The Thule Society, seeing themselves as mystics and mediums, purportedly communicated with beings who claimed to be either extraterrestrial or from an earthbound civilization. They supposedly got a lot of information about advanced spacecraft and flying saucers from these beings, teaching the Nazi Party about the potential presence of an ancient civilization or bases in Antarctica equipped with cutting-edge technology. Hitler and the Nazis held a particular interest in Antarctica, believing that something significant was hidden beneath its ice. Upon arriving in Antarctica, they reportedly discovered huge cities featuring advanced infrastructure and technology, with structures both on the surface and deep underground. Beyond its cities and technology, the Nazis purportedly unearthed something else in Antarctica. In 1939, a German expedition to Antarctica allegedly made a surprising discovery: the Elat Lithium plates. In 1938 to 1939, Alfred Richter, captain of the research ship Schwabenland, led the German Atlantic expedition, during which about 600,000 square kilometers were mapped. In the expedition's second year, Richter reportedly discovered an entrance to the inland. But why were the Nazis and Hitler himself so intrigued by the ancient origins of humanity? It is known that Hitler was surrounded by people who believed in extraterrestrials and ancient advanced civilizations. Hitler was obsessed with ancient mythologies, he was obsessed with the occult, and above all, he was obsessed with acquiring knowledge. One of the key advisory bodies to the Nazi leadership was the secret Thule Society. Founded in Berlin in 1921 by Professor Karl Haushofer, the director of the Institute of Geopolitics at the University of Munich, this society was closely linked to Rudolf Hess, a student of Haushofer and a friend of Hitler. When Hess and Hitler were imprisoned after the failed Munich coup in 1923, Haushofer frequently visited them, leading to endless discussions about the mysterious phenomenon of Vril and potential extraterrestrial contacts. The Thule Society was named after an energy form Vril from the 19th century science fiction novel The Power of the Coming Race by Edward Bulwer Lytton. In the book, Bulwer Lytton portrays a dominant race with a mastery over a mystical energy named Vril. Bulwer Lytton, a member of the secretive Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, likely used his esoteric knowledge to craft the novel and present his insights in a form understandable only to those with similar knowledge. The novel describes Vril energy as stemming from the Black Sun, an enormous orb of primordial matter that can only exist in the Earth's core. The Black Sun provides light to an underground civilization and is worshipped as a divine symbol. The Thule Society adopted this energy's name, equating it to the Sanskrit term prana, representing universal life force. According to the society, this energy could power machines and devices, and they aimed to use it for disc-shaped ships. They thought they could harness this energy because they were descendants of aliens from the solar system Aldebaran, who came to Earth in the distant past. These aliens, known as Aryans, were believed to be the superior race on Earth, descending from an ancient extraterrestrial civilization. The Thule Society propagated the belief that an ancient civilization once ruled the surface of Earth, before retreating to its inner layers after a catastrophic war with another alien civilization. They speculated that these beings might be the mythical Atlanteans or Lemurians, or even an older extraterrestrial civilization that created these societies. Advocates of Vril power suggested that the world as we know it will undergo drastic changes when the Masters return to the surface. Those unable to harness the Vril power will become enslaved, and the power can only be harnessed through deep inner concentration. This method was believed to have been inherited from the ancient Atlanteans, and its proper application should reactivate the power that is deeply embedded in every true Aryan. That was, in part, the justification of the Nazi political party to consolidate Aryan supremacy on planet Earth. The Vril organization gained momentum and popularity, with more members embracing the belief in Vril power as the key to self-mastery and dominance over others and the world. Many members of the Thule Society were also part of another secret organization, the Thule Society, and both societies shared overlapping ideologies and members, including the founding of the Nazi Party. The Thule Society's primary goal was to discover the origin of the Aryan race. Ancient Greek and Roman geographers placed Thule in the far north, today's Scandinavia, but modern mystics suggest it was a lost ancient state in the northernmost regions near Greenland and Iceland. The inhabitants of Thule, described as tall, blonde, and blue-eyed, were said to have originated from the constellation Aldebaran. After settling below the Himalayas, in a region known as Agartha, legends tell of a disastrous war, followed by earthquakes and pole shifts that would wipe out 2/3 of Earth's population. After these cataclysms, surviving humanity would unite with races from within the Earth, ushering in a golden age. There are claims that the Thule Society, the inner circle of the Thule Society, collaborated with the American government post-World War II. Consequently, Germanic members of Thule and Vril were secretly relocated to the United States in an operation known as Clamor. Some even claim that the Nazis harnessed Vril's power and landed secretly on the moon in 1942, building a base that was later destroyed by the Americans. Back to the expedition in the South Pole. During the Antarctic expedition, Captain Reacher followed the esoteric guidance of the Thule Society, interpreting spiritual messages that led him to an ancient sarcophagus on the coast of New Schwabenland. Inside this relic, several tablets were discovered, later identified as Elat Litum, accompanied by various technical devices and instructional materials that were then made accessible to the Thule Society. It is said that Maria Orsic received information about the place between 1919 and 1924, but was not yet able to decipher and interpret it. The Elat Litum text, inscribed on multiple metallic plates, was transported and concealed in Argentina in 1941, with the written content taken to Berlin for translation by scholars skilled in ancient languages. Their mysterious language, originally unidentifiable, was later discerned as Sumerian. It wasn't until 2009 that these artifacts were first unveiled to the public by the Thule Society. The Elat Litum plates presented a captivating narrative, divided into several passages that tell of the arrival and origin of the Anunnaki on Earth. Allegedly coming from the Aldebaran, these beings, led by their leader Anu, encountered strange reptilian creatures with keen eyes and clawed paws upon their arrival. The text recounts the genesis of new species and races, the evolution of DNA, and other scientific phenomena. It also prophesies certain signs indicating the return of these gods, the crop circles we recognize today. Among the trove of information in the sarcophagus were blueprints for constructing a spaceship named Vril Odin. According to the inscriptions, this spacecraft was successfully developed and was ready for launch by the fall of 1944. Its intended destination was a planet in the Aldebaran solar system.
So the U.S. government's like, something's going on with Antarctica. There's some activity up there. We want to find out what's going on. So they send this cat named Admiral Byrd up to investigate.
So, did the Nazis really have access to underground cities on the ice continent? One of the compelling incidents that advocates the existence of Nazi military bases in Antarctica is the US operation known as High Jump, led by Admiral Byrd. In 1946, merely a year after World War II's end, the US government launched a major expedition to Antarctica. Operation High Jump featured an impressive lineup, including an aircraft carrier Casablanca, equipped with 25 aircraft and 7 helicopters, a submarine, an icebreaker, 12 tankers, and a personnel numbering 4,700 people. The expedition, scheduled for an 8-month tenure, arrived in Antarctica on February 1, 1947. It involved extensive aerial photography and setting up a polar station. Initially, the government denied but later conceded that one of the operation's primary objectives was to extend US sovereignty over the largest possible area of the Antarctic territory. However, the expedition ended abruptly under unclear circumstances. Did the US military encounter Nazis and their extraterrestrial weaponry? During the expedition, several perplexing broadcasts were reported, such as, "We are being attacked," "We are suffering heavy losses." Tales circulated about vessels rising from the water around ships and saucer-like aircraft emerging. These saucers reportedly unleashed ray-like weapons that cleaved ships in half. They attacked planes in the sky and moved with such speed that tracking their origin was nearly impossible. The American fleet was ultimately driven back to the US, devastated and defeated. While it remains unclear who Rear Admiral Byrd was combating, work came to an abrupt halt on March 3, 1947. The expedition made a swift return to America. All materials from the expedition were strictly classified, and no explanation was given for the Admiral's hasty retreat from Antarctica. A year later, press reports claimed that the expedition didn't fully return, There was a loss of 1 ship, damage to 13 aircraft, about 68 casualties, and the new aircraft carrier was urgently dispatched for repairs. In April 1947, Rear Admiral Byrd reportedly provided extensive details to a confidential meeting of the President's Commission in Washington. Commission summaries included passages like, "The ships and planes of the 4th American Arctic Expedition were attacked by peculiar flying saucers which emerged from the ground and, moving at high speed, inflicted substantial damage on the expedition." Post-expedition, Rear Admiral Byrd was committed to a mental institution for 5 years. Intriguingly, once the uproar subsided, he was discharged and calmly reinstated to a commanding position in the US Navy. This move indicated that the government probably didn't consider him insane, but wanted to conceal certain information. Rumors circulated in the press about this mysterious conflict, suggesting that Rear Admiral Byrd battled forces of the Fourth Reich, or New Swabia based in Antarctica, and that the flying saucers were secret Nazi inventions. Did the US military genuinely encounter such technology during Operation High Jump? Even today, the occurrences in Antarctica remain enigmatic. Jan Van Helsen's book, My Father Was a Man in Black, features an intriguing account from William Tompkins, a former US Navy officer who worked with secret services during World War II. He asserts, according to his account, the relocation process from Germany to Antarctica was initiated in 1934, well before World War II's onset. Its origins can be traced back to 1913, the second German expedition to the southern continent. Massive amounts of equipment were transported. Nearby, the German caves there were 3 larger reptilian ones, not greys, but draconians, which were way bigger than the German ones in size. Everything was shipped via submarines. They had approximately 90% of what was required to construct flying objects, disc or cigar shapes, in their underground facilities. These facilities were already operational by 1932. Although the primary flying disc program was still active in Germany, they had replicas of everything they needed to make their own in Antarctica. They manufactured the ships in production factories spread across occupied territories. The civilian population didn't know anything of these operations, and everything was kept secret. The prototypes were developed in Germany, while the groundwork for the actual production occurred in Antarctica. Almost all the completed discs originated from there, and they built the remaining facilities even before the war ended. There were reports from spies within the Nazi ranks that the Germans had successfully voyaged to certain stars and returned. Tompkins also provides a description of the Antarctic caves, comparing their size to large countries. These are massive, uniced caverns beneath the ice. Running water is available, making them suitable for habitation. He further suggests that German bases in Antarctica remain active, and spacecraft are still being produced there. There are claims about a city named New Berlin. The Norse are currently working on Earth in collaboration with specific factions to combat the Draconians and prevent their predatory advancements into the galaxy. Van Helsing is talking about a book titled Emergence of the New Space Age by writer John B. Lath, which was published in 1980 and has not been reprinted since. The book contains a story about a second Germany in the interior of the Earth. The story begins before 1572, when 500 Germans from Saxony-Coburg and a few Prussians were recruited as soldiers by the Portuguese King Sebastian I, who ordered them to build a fortification near Aladonca and station a garrison there to fight against the Spanish. When they sailed down the river, they were attacked by the local Indians and forced to retreat with their families into the jungles, where they discovered the entrance to a cave, from which the natives feared and fled. They transformed this cave and its vicinity into their dwelling. Over time, they penetrated deeper into the subterranean regions that resembled the Earth's surface, creating settlements within these vast caves and establishing 6 cities. According to the book, throughout the early 18th century, there was a communication exchange between the Germans from the interior and those from the surface. Closer relations were established after 1853. Skilled engineers were brought in to improve the transport tunnels and equip them with electric vehicles. By 1900, the underground German population had grown to about 10 million. During World War I, the Americans discovered a path from above-ground Germany to Antarctica. In 1930, trade between the two Germanys began, and in 1936, Hitler had already collected enough evidence of the inner world that a research team went there. Before 1938, German specialists entered Antarctica under Hitler's orders. They found openings leading to the interior unimpeded. They were granted land for future settlers, provided they abandoned their warlike intentions. Initially, Hitler did not agree, but accepted after his war plans failed in 1943. A 30-year agreement was signed, and by the end of World War II, some 2.5 million Germans from the surface had already relocated to the interior, and the flow continued. According to the book, Hitler escaped by submarine to Argentina and was later taken to the inner land in the King's personal spaceship. By the end of World War II, some 2.5 million surface Germans had already been transferred to the interior, and the influx continued. Due to the absolute supremacy of New Germany and the inhabitants of the Lower Earth, the UN built strongholds in the polar regions, with entrances to the interior. The main purpose was exploration, but it was also intended as a warning system should the subterranean Germans decide to take over the world one day. By the 1980s, the inner land was inhabited by over 500 million people, 60 million of whom were Germans. Approximately 18 million lived in New Germany, and about 1.5 million in New Berlin. It had the comfort of a modern city, but without the pollution. Interestingly, a changed Hitler became president of the New Germany until his death on November 12, 1974. His stepson, Dr. Hans the Sturzen, succeeded him as Adolf II. The German circular aircraft or flying discs powered by the Earth's electromagnetic field were the key to their military and technological supremacy. Their anti-magnetic motors developed speeds of almost 50,000 kilometers per hour in any direction, and due to anti-gravity, their payload capacity was practically unlimited. They had offensive and defensive laser weapon systems. Such were the prototypes of the flying saucers, which were later improved and could be used to fly in space without any problems. In 1977, American General Edward Wright visited New Germany in a flying saucer, and since then, there has been a permanent American presence in New Berlin. But that's all according to the book Emergence of the New Space Age. However, the core question still remains. Did the Nazis succeed in establishing a concealed military base at the South Pole for their post-World War II refuge? And did they really make contact with extraterrestrial intelligence? Questions to which we cannot yet get a definite answer. However, we are curious to see what your thoughts on this are in the comments. If you found this video interesting, leave a like and subscribe, and watch our related videos about the mysteries of Antarctica next. Keep your minds open, and until we meet again.